jail for the rest of his life. I think he's probably going to get.
Think he's insane though?
I don't know. I don't even think it matters. I mean, it's a lot of it is.
But then it's just another Epstein.
There's
it's another Ghislaine Maxwell, where somebody gets indicted and nobody else indicted for trafficking kids to.
Right,
no
to no one. Right. We're like, what is the next crazy thing that's going to explode in the news? Is Bill Clinton's going to have an OnlyFans? Like, what is going to happen? What is the next thing that's going to make us all go, what the f***? Like, what the f*** is going on?
It's coming.
Like, you know, how many guys were on video saying, "Ain't no party like a Diddy party"? How many people like openly talked about being there?
LeBron?
Yeah, how about Ashton Kutcher? All these people. Like, you guys all went, you didn't see nothing?
Joe Rogan just figured out something terrifying about Diddy's case. The web of crimes doesn't stop with him. It goes straight to the top of the pyramid. And what he discovered on his podcast might have been a huge mistake to say out loud. So, in this video, we're breaking down the entire power structure from Diddy all the way up to the names at the very top. You're going to discover who the real players are, why certain names never get questioned no matter what, and why Joe Rogan might have crossed a dangerous line by discussing it publicly on his show. Trust me, this is going to blow your mind. Look, while Diddy sits in his prison cell right now waiting for trial, most of us think the story ends with him. Right? Wrong. Joe Rogan's recent podcast conversation revealed something nobody was ready for. And honestly, it's kind of scary when you think about it. The entertainment mogul's network stretches way beyond what you see in the headlines. We're talking about connections that go so deep they touch every corner of power in this country. So, in this video, we're breaking down the entire power structure from Diddy all the way up to the names at the very top. You're going to discover who the real players are, why certain names never get questioned no matter what, and why Joe Rogan might have crossed a dangerous line by discussing it publicly on his show. Trust me, this is going to blow your mind. He's going to be in jail for the rest of his life. I think he's probably going to get saying, though, I don't know. I don't even think it matters. I mean, it's a lot of it is, but then it's just another murder Maxwell where there's somebody that's indicted and nobody else indicted for trafficking kid to MHM. Right to no one right where like, what is the next crazy thing that's going to explode in the news? Is Bill Clinton's going to have an OnlyFans? Like, what is going to happen? What is the next thing that's going to make us all go, what the is going on? It's coming. You know how many guys were on video saying ain't no party like a Diddy party. How many people like openly talked about being there? LeBron. Yeah. How Ashton Kutcher. All these people like you guys all went. You didn't see nothing. Before we get into who's really pulling the strings, you need to understand what Diddy actually did because without this context, the rest won't make sense. Right now, Diddy is serving time in jail.
Thought these words would come out my mouth, but Candace Owens is onto something, and that did not feel comfortable at all. So Candace says the reason mainstream news is not picking up this lawsuit, is not paying attention to Diddy at all, is because of this man right here, Lucian Grandage. He is one of the most powerful men in Hollywood and music. And he been up in Diddy's room. So this man right here is Sir Lucian Charles Grandage. He's been the CEO of Universal Music Group since 2010, so you know he done seen some shit. So I had to go to the damn documents. I had to see if this man was actually named, and he is. As you can see, it says Lucian Charles Grandage, and it also says Universal Music Group. On top of that, it says Ethiopia. I cannot fuck up her last name. I refuse to. But she was also a big person in Universal Music Group. And then Christina Coramham, Lord forgive. But she was like Diddy's.
He was arrested and then indicted on some seriously heavy charges, as you already know. Now, federal prosecutors say he used his power and influence to force victims into terrible situations. And here's where it gets really dark. The infamous freak-offs. These were private parties where celebrities were allegedly drugged and filmed without even knowing it were happening. Can you imagine? You think you're at a party and someone's recording everything to use against you later. Over 120 people have come forward with allegations. And get this, 25 of them were minors. Kids, guys, that's what we're talking about here. 50 Cent's recent Netflix documentary, The Reckoning, brought even more attention to the case. He wasn't afraid to put it all out there, and honestly, good for him. But here's what most people don't know. And this is a part that's going to change everything. Diddy wasn't working alone, and he definitely wasn't at the top of this thing. So, let's get into it. During one of his podcast episodes, Joe Rogan started connecting dots that most people were too scared to connect. He brought up Jeffrey Epstein, and suddenly the similarities between their operations became impossible to ignore. The conversation got real serious real fast. One of his guests asked, "Is he going to sing? You know, like, is he going to snitch on everyone else involved?" And this is where Rogan's brain just clicked. He pointed out something that should make all of us uncomfortable. The Epstein pattern. Someone gets indicted for trafficking, but somehow nobody else goes down with them. Think about it. Epstein was trafficking kids to who? According to official records, to no one. Ghislaine Maxwell got convicted for trafficking. To who? Again, no one. Does that make any sense to you? Because it sure doesn't make sense to me. The pattern is crystal clear. The people at the top always find a way to escape. It's like watching the same movie over and over again, but nobody seems to notice. Then Rogan started dropping names. LeBron James, Ashton Kutcher, other huge celebrities who openly talk about attending Diddy's parties back in the day. Remember all those ain't no party like a Diddy party videos? Rogan's question hit different though. He straight up asked, "You guys all went? You didn't see nothing?" And that's the thing, right?
Between Diddy and Epstein, it's good. There's probably several thousand hours of footage here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I should say, I think you voted for Biden.
I'd like to see a matchup of those, call it the top 100 puppet masters on the Epstein client list.
Do you think there's some overlap?
Strong overlap. Strong overlap.
When are we going to see that list, do you think?
I don't know.
Will that ever come out, do you think?
You know, I think part of why Kamala is getting so much support is that if Trump wins, that Epstein client list is going to become public.
Yes.
And some of those billionaires behind Kamala are terrified of that outcome.
Yeah. Do you think Reid Hoffman's uncomfortable?
Yes. And Gates.
And Gates.
Yeah.
And I only ask that because you just look at them and you're like, that's a nervous person right there. I don't know. I mean, I assume you know them. Yeah.
Yeah.
The silence from these people suggests they either knew what was happening or they were part of it. There's no middle ground here. Now, we need to talk about the emperor. If Diddy was a king of his little domain, so Lucian Grange is the actual emperor pulling strings from the shadows. Grange is the CEO of Universal Music Group. That's the parent company of basically every major label Diddy ever worked with. This man has power you can't even imagine. Here's where things get insane. In the Little Rod lawsuit, Grange was actually named. The theory? Major labels like Universal provide the entire infrastructure for these moguls to operate. They are not just music companies, they are protection rackets. And the documents that came out, oh man, they are damning. Never thought these words would come out of my mouth, but Candace Owens is onto something, and that did not feel comfortable at all. So Candace says, the reason mainstream news is not picking up this lawsuit, is not paying attention to Diddy at all, is because of this man right here, Lucy Greenwich. He is one of the most powerful men in Hollywood and music, and he been up in Diddy's room. So this man right here is Sir Lucian Charles Granny. He's been the CEO of Universal Music Group since 2010. So you know he done seen some shit. So I had to go to the damn documents. I had to see if this man was actually named. And he is. As you can see, it says Lucy and Charles Greenwich, and it also says Universal Music Group. On top of that, it says Ethiopia. I cannot _ up her last name. I refuse to. But she was also a big person in Universal Music Group. And then Christina Karorum, Lord forgive, but she was like Diddy's second hand. The lawsuit revealed that Grange didn't just know about the parties, he sponsored them. He attended them multiple times at Diddy's Los Angeles home. These parties had explicit workers and underage girls there. Let that sink in for a second. Underage girls. The lawsuit straight up alleges that Grange knew or should have known that Diddy was drugging people. How? Through lace bottles of Del Ion tequila and Ciroc vodka. Diddy's own alcohol brands. By the way, wild, right? Candace Owens actually called this out. She pointed out why mainstream news wasn't touching this story. Lucian Grange is one of the most powerful men in Hollywood and music. He controls what gets covered and what gets buried. The lawsuit names him directly along with Ethiopia Habamariam and Christina Karorum from Universal Music Group. According to the documents, they all knew what was happening. They saw it. They were there. But they never stopped it. Why? Because major label CEOs ho. The money. They decide which problems are worth protecting. Because those problems generate billions of dollars. It's that simple and that disgusting. This is exactly why you're not seeing this story blown up on CNN or Fox News. These power players control the narrative. They control what you get to know. When it comes to Diddy's inner circle, one name always comes up, Jay-Z. These two aren't just friends. They are brothers in the industry. Diddy once said that only 2 people in the entire world are allowed to call him by his real name, Sean. His mother and Jay-Z. That's it. Nobody else. Only one person. And I call him Sean. That's Jay-Z. We call each other Sean. Okay. Yeah. Nobody else could call me Sean. He's the only person. There's not a single person that should outside of family that should be no outside of my mother. Okay, that should be calling me. Yeah, they should be calling me Sean. Now, Jaguar, right? If you don't know who she is, she's basically the woman who's not afraid to say what everyone else is thinking. She sat down with Piers Morgan and dropped some explosive claims about Jay-Z and Diddy. But here's the crazy part. That full episode, it disappeared. Like wiped from the internet, almost instantly buried. Nearly impossible to find now. Why would that happen if there was nothing to hide? Just asking. During that interview, Wright asked a question that's been floating around for years. How is it that Jay-Z can sit down with Gayle King on national TV and never, not once, get asked about certain rumors or industry connections? She didn't hold back either. She called both Diddy and Jay-Z monsters. Said their power has been crushing the industry for literally decades. And people started asking the obvious question. Why would Jay-Z's personal high-profile attorney suddenly get involved in Diddy's legal mess? Coincidence, connection, or something way bigger happening behind closed doors that we're not supposed to know about? Jay-Z has never publicly addressed any of these whispers. And in today's world, staying silent doesn't look neutral. It looks like a choice, a very intentional choice. Joe Rogan talks about this all the time on his podcast. High-level elites don't handle their own problems. They hire expensive fixers and legal teams whose entire job is to make stories disappear. People like Alan Grubman. Ever heard of him? Probably not. And that's exactly the point. He's a power attorney who represents everyone from Diddy to Bruce Springsteen. These people connect the entire industry together. They are the industry elite operating in the shadows. They hold all the secrets. They write the NDAs that keep victims silent for 20, 30 years. They are above everyone else because they control information. And in this world, information is the ultimate power. If they decide your story doesn't get told, trust me, it doesn't get told. Whenever Joe Rogan has former CIA officer Mike Baker on his show, they always end up drawing the same comparison. Diddy's free course in Jeffrey Epstein's island operation. Theory isn't that Diddy was some evil mastermind who thought this all up himself. No, the theory is that he was a facilitator, someone put in place to do a specific job. Think about it. If Diddy was filming these parties and federal indictments say he was, then who was the footage for? Who wanted those recordings? The people above are the potential John Does hiding in the background. Politicians, CEOs, global elites who use Diddy's parties like their own personal playground. Between Diddy and Epstein, it's good. There's probably several thousand hours of footage here. Yeah. And I should say I think you voted for I'd like to see a matchup of those, called to the top 100 puppet masters in the FD client list. Do you think there's some overlap? Overlap. Strong overlap. When are we going to see that list? Do you think? I don't know. Will that ever come out? Do you think? You know, I think part of why Kamala is getting so much support is that if Trump wins at FC client list is going to become public. Yes. And some of those billionaires behind Kamala are terrified of that outcome. Yeah. Do you think Reid Hoffman's uncomfortable? Yes. And Gates. Yeah. And I only ask that cause you can sort you just look at them and you're like that's a nervous person right there. I don't know. I mean, I assume you know them. Yeah. Yes. And apparently there are thousands of hours of footage, not just from Diddy's parties, but connections to Epstein's tapes, too. If that's true, we're talking about a full-blown blackmail operation that spans decades. Elon Musk actually hinted at this on Joe Rogan's podcast. He suggested that part of why certain political figures get massive support from billionaires is because they're terrified. Terrified that if the wrong person gets into power, lists start coming out. The Epstein client list, the Diddy party list. Names like Reid Hoffman and Bill Gates got brought up as people who might be uncomfortable about potential revelations. And when Rogan asked Elon if Reid Hoffman seemed nervous, Elon's answer was just one word: yes. So, you have these guys like a Jeffrey Epstein-type guy who worked for the elite of the elite clientele. It's all movie stars, big-time politicians, world leaders, scientists, Nobel Prize winners, and they all meet together and have fascinating conversations and cocktails, and there's beautiful girls everywhere. Of course, what a great idea. And if you're naive and you don't understand honeypots, here's a quote from Maria Farmer, who was one of the accusers from what was inside the house in New York. Okay, she said, there were monitors inside this cabinet. I looked on the cameras and I saw toilet, bed, toilet. She said, visibly spooked-like, I'm never going to use a restroom here and I'm never going to sleep here. You know what I mean? It was very obvious that they were like monitoring private moments. Yeah, of course. Maria Farmer was the one who worked at Epstein's office in New York, I think. And this was the house, Jamie. Yeah, I was looking up stuff on the house. That was like what they found. Wonder if the house still has __ cameras in it somewhere that they haven't found yet. They definitely will. Don't know. Yeah, you'd have to scan the __ out of that house. You'd have to take the walls apart. There's probably listening devices inside the walls. Like, who knows if this was like really an intelligence operation? Yeah, they probably had that house fully wired. Here's the facilitator model in action. Guys like Epstein and Diddy created protected environments, places where celebrities and politicians who couldn't party in public could do whatever they wanted. But here's the trap. These weren't just party spots. They were honeypots, places where elites could be watched, recorded, and controlled. Joe Rogan said it best. If this wasn't an intelligence agency operation, then it's one incredibly evil genius who figured out how to compromise everyone. Make people put their phones away. Tell them no one will know anything. But you've got cameras everywhere recording everything. The question Rogan asked next is the one that matters. Is Diddy working with somebody above him, or did he just get too far out there and lose control? Elon Musk brought up Jennifer Lopez during his conversation with Joe Rogan. And it wasn't about politics, it was about credibility. His point was simple but brutal. If people were that close to Diddy for years, where were the warnings? Where were the red flags? J-Lo was Diddy's girlfriend. They dated. They were together at events, parties, everything. So, here's the uncomfortable question. How many people did she warn about Diddy? 0. The answer is 0. This opened up something nobody wanted to face. If someone was right there in the inner circle and never said a word, what does that actually mean? Either they had no clue what was happening, which a lot of people find really hard to believe, or they knew something and chose to stay quiet. If they stayed quiet, why was it fear, loyalty, protecting their own image, or were they protecting someone even higher up the chain? These are the questions people should be asking. During federal raids on Diddy's homes, agents reportedly seized thousands of hours of footage. We're not talking about a few clips, thousands of hours. Commentators like Jaguar Wright and Gene Deal have talked about how this footage worked. It wasn't just for blackmail. It was insurance, a way to keep people in line without Diddy ever having to threaten anyone directly. Now, word on the street is that these tapes are being quietly moved, and that's causing straight-up panic among huge names who might be caught on them. Megyn Kelly made a really good point. Diddy isn't even being charged for the assault that was caught on video. You know, that brutal footage of him beating Cassie in the hotel hallway. So, if it's not being charged for something we all saw with our own eyes, what does that tell you about what else they are protecting? The real questions are, who has all the videos now? What's actually in those videos? And what would happen if thousands of celebrities suddenly got exposed on tape doing things they never wanted public? Maybe the most disturbing part isn't what we already know. Maybe it's what's still being kept from us. When cameras get banned and secrets get sold, who really holds the remote? Who's really in control? This one shocked a lot of people. In 50 Cent's documentary, there's some very strategic editing. Bishop T.D. Jake's image shows up during sections talking about Diddy's parties. A lot of people online don't think that was an accident. They believe 50 Cent was sending a message, a coded one, but a message nonetheless. When Bishop T.D. Jake finally got confronted about the Diddy allegations, his response made everything worse. Instead of saying, "No, I was never involved," he just said, "Keep it moving." Then he said something that sent the internet into a complete frenzy. He mentioned that even if something like that were true, repentance has the power to cover sins. Then he added that he didn't even need to repent for this. To most people, that didn't sound like confidence or innocence. It sounded like he was deflecting, dancing around the question without actually answering it. Jaguar Wright jumped on this immediately. She claimed that if Bishop Jake was around Diddy's party circles, it could only be for two reasons: money or access. She described these secret gatherings as leverage zones, places where influence gets built and then used against people later. Former bodyguard Gene Deal raised his own questions. Why would a respected religious leader even be seen near parties that insiders describe as anything but clean? He also hinted that he's heard whispers about tapes, recordings that might eventually surface. And if that happens, Gene said the conversation won't be about speculation anymore. It'll be about proof. Real, undeniable proof. Some researchers are mapping this entire thing like a pyramid. And when you see it laid out like that, it makes terrifying sense. At the bottom of the pyramid, you've got names like Jay-Z and Beyonce. Powerful, sure, but still taking orders from above. In the middle, you've got the major gatekeepers. People like Oprah, Clive Davis, and record executives who control access to fame and fortune. And at the very top, one hidden name that supposedly ties it all together. The influence doesn't just touch music or Hollywood. It stretches into politics, tech, and even religious institutions. Comedian Dave Chappelle talked about this years ago, but nobody really listened. He described the entertainment world as a trap, not just a bad contract or a tough industry, a system built entirely on control. When people asked him why he didn't just take his show to another network, his answer was chilling. He said it would be like running from one plantation to another. Different master, same chains. If someone as successful and powerful as Dave Chappelle felt completely boxed in by the system, what does that say about everyone else? What does it say about people who are just trying to survive inside the machine without getting crushed? So, after hearing all of this, from Diddy's alleged blackmail operation to the financial gatekeepers at Universal Music Group, from the Jay-Z connections to the Epstein parallels, from Bishop T.D. Jake to the power pyramid structure, what do you actually think is going on here? Is this just a bunch of coincidences all happening at the same time? Or are we finally seeing real cracks in something way bigger than any of us realize? I want to hear what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Seriously, tell me what you believe is really happening here. Thanks so much for watching. Stay curious, stay questioning, and I'll see you in the next one.